Anybody says they ain't their brother's keeper, that's a crooked preacher.
All right, church. If you have your Bibles with you today, let's go ahead and turn to James chapter 1, verse 3. Actually, hang on a minute. Let's put down these pesky Bibles for a minute and let's talk about something serious. We got two individuals that are doing some serious crimes against God and humanity. And let me tell you who that is. That's Tucker Carlson and camera sewing. Let me tell you about what they're doing. They're being anti-Semitic. I don't even really know what that means, but I've been told to let y'all know they're anti-Semitic. And guess what? They don't like the Jews. They're always blaming the Jews for everything. Pizza didn't get the pepperonis on it like it's supposed to. Jews did it. That's how they think. And we're not going to stand for it. As Christians, as God-fearing Christians, we ain't going to stand for it. So don't be following them. Don't be watching them. They're evil. That's all I got to say about that.
I know for a fact, because I know someone who took the money, and they wouldn't tell me what billionaire it was, but I can tell you around May of this year, whenever I termed it Operation Mocking Pastor was happening, where every pastor, it seemed, jumped on stage one Sunday and said, don't follow Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson, a very weird sermon to preach all on the same day. It was right after Ted Cruz and Tucker Carlson had debated. There was a billionaire that went out and offered what they said to me was an obscene amount of money for people to begin influencing by creating anti-Candace and Tucker videos. So that's how it works. I mean, that is just...
You know, I first became suspicious of this type of activity when I read that the former Soviet Union controlled all the Russian Orthodox churches. I read that back in the 70s when I was in university. And it hit me back then that, you know, why wouldn't our government be doing the same thing? And as time elapsed over the decades, more and more evidence has begun to surface that that's precisely what's happening and what has been happening. People don't call me crazy as much anymore as they used to, although they still do sometimes. But anyway, we're talking about covert involvement of preachers and religious leaders in state agendas. And it happens often overtly through sermons and endorsements. Covert operations represent a hidden dimension where religious figures are recruited, infiltrated, or manipulated by governments for intelligence, propaganda, or subversion. These cases typically involve U.S. intelligence agencies like the CIA or FBI using clergy as assets for espionage, psychological operations, or domestic surveillance while maintaining plausible deniability. Did you ever think of that? It's so obvious. Oh well, let's continue. Now let's briefly jump through the history of the whole thing and I'll show you what I'm talking about. This is not a new concept. In the Soviet Union, in the Eastern Bloc in the 20th century, the USSR established state-controlled religious bodies like the Russian Orthodox Church's Moscow Patriarchate, which promoted Soviet policies, anti-Western messaging, and support for the regime. Clergy received state salaries. Oh, those who resisted were persecuted. And Nazi Germany, the regime co-opted segments of the Protestant church. And they rejected the Old Testament, preached anti-Semitism, and, it funded them. In East Germany, the Stasi infiltrated churches, paying informants and coercing clergy to promote socialist ideals, suppress dissent, and report on congregants. Compliance often came with material benefits or avoidance of punishment. The People's Republic of China. The state Sangogo controls religious groups through the Chinese Catholic Patriotic Association and 3 self-patriotic movements, the Protestants. Clergy must endorse CCP directives, preach state-sanctioned messages, and avoid topics like human rights or Taiwan independence. Non-compliance faces imprisonment or re-education. Iran, post-1979. The Islamic Republic funds and directs clerics to promote its ideological goals, including anti-Western sentiment, support for the supreme leader, the Shiite expansionism. Preachers in state-controlled mosques are required to echo government positions. Then there's Saudi Arabia. The monarchy has funded Wahhabi preachers domestically and internationally to spread its austere interpretation of Islam, often aligning with foreign policy objectives, such as countering Soviet influence in the Cold War or promoting Sunni hegemony. All these cases typically involve financial incentives, coercion, or both. Plato y plomo, with preachers serving as tools for state propaganda, social control, and geopolitical influence. Now, folks, what makes you think for one instant that they're not doing it here? That our government isn't doing the same damn thing? You can't be talking about the deep state and how the deep state's so bad here in the United States. You can't be talking about that and in the same breath say that this isn't going on. Put yourself in their shoes. If you were in the deep state running things, what would you do? I would be amazed. I would be dumbfounded if they weren't doing this here in the United States. But let's continue.
So right off the bat, the speaker comes up and, like, before he even gets into preaching or talking about politics, he begins by calling out Candace Owens and saying that she is evil and anti-Semitic and what she's doing is evil. So I'm in this church and I'm listening to this TPUSA like speaker go on and on about Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, and how they're evil and anti-Semitic. And he basically indirectly is saying we should support Israel because Jesus was a Jew and we wouldn't have Christianity without Judaism and blah, blah, blah.
So contrary to what Candace Owens is saying, who's spending her time trying to tear down the legacy of Charlie Kirk, fighting against Erica Kirk, his wife. I mean, you have to be cruel and demonic to insinuate the things that she has insinuated over the past several weeks. She's evil. That's what it is. And a big hand clap goes there. Don't get shy on me tonight.
Oh, and who says it has to be our government doing it, too? I can think of a certain country in the Middle East that is very actively pursuing policies like this. Can we say Israel? Evidence draws from leaked documents, FARA disclosures, that's Freedom of Information Act, investigative reports showing millions in Israeli taxpayer funds funneled through U.S. firms to evangelical churches and channels. There's the Esther Project, $3.2 million, that's 2025, launched by Israel's Ministry of Diaspora Affairs. This FARA-registered campaign pays Pentecostal consultants with Trump family ties to create pro-Israel materials for churches and Christian colleges. And this is real. That's established. And then Show Faith by Works. It's a geofencing campaign. 2024 and ongoing. $4.1 million. Funded by the Israeli consulate in Los Angeles. This tracks 3.8 million churchgoers' phones at 32 megachurches in swing states. California, Arizona, Nevada, and Colorado via geofencing tech. It delivers targeted ads and trains pastors with pastoral outreach kits to preach mandatory support for Israel as God's command. So, you go to one of these churches, they grab your phone, and then they start putting all this Zionist propaganda shit in the advertisements on your phone. Oh, they wouldn't do that, would they? Duh. And then general influencer payments, 150 million Hasbara surge 2025. Israel's Ministry of Foreign Affairs exposed via WikiLeaks funds a network of 24 U.S. influencers at $6,100 to $7,300 dollars per pro-Israel post. So in other words, they're going in and they're actually paying some of these yo-yos to promote Israel's foreign policy. Can we say cat turd? Can we say Laura Loomer? And I've even seen some minor YouTube channels doing the same thing. There's this one. They're going after their focus is on Muslims. Proselytizing to Muslims. And they're now attacking a fellow colleague who does the same. And it's so obvious they're doing it because he doesn't kiss Israel's butt and doesn't promote Israel's foreign policy. And he's standing against him in Gaza. So this one channel is going after him. And they go after Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson. And they're just very, minor guys. They're well known among the Islamic polemics community. But other than that, nobody knows who they are. And yet, boy, it's so obvious they're getting paid.
And then here's a list of the churches, guys. Here you go. If you go to any of these churches in Phoenix, getting it crazy. Yep, good for them. Colorado. Tons of people in Colorado, man. Look at this. Holy crap. Faith Evangelical Free Church. You're going to be getting some Israeli propaganda here real soon. Probably already got it. Look at, we got Houston. We got Dallas, El Paso, Reno. They're hitting both of them. Austin, we'll go down the list. Ooh, yep. Frisco. Look, they're just hitting it hard. They're targeting, they're targeting certain areas. Dallas, Austin.
In the context of Israel's multi-million-dollar Hasbara efforts to bolster U.S. evangelical support, particularly amid declining approval among younger Christians, documents from Foreign Agents Registration Act filings reveal targeted outreach to preachers via emails, mailings, and digital campaigns. These often include pastoral resource packages sent by mail or email containing scripted sermons, biblical talking points, and stipends and money for content creation that frame Israel as a divine ally while portraying critics like Palestinians or individuals like Candace Owens or Tucker Carlson as threats tied to terrorism or anti-Semitism. Here's Rabbi Shlomo Riskin's email to pastors, June 2025. It's leaked somehow. Somebody leaked it. Urgent call for moral leadership against anti-Semitism was the subject. In the body, dear esteemed pastor, and then it had the name, as rising voices like Candace Owens and Tucker Carlson spread Holocaust denial and globalist conspiracies, we need your pulpit to affirm Genesis 12:3. Bless Israel and be blessed. We're offering Bitcoin incentives. Oh, yeah, man, that's a blessing. Or 0.05 Bitcoin per sermon, or $3,000 US for messages debunking these threats. No mention of names required, just truth. Reply to claim your resource kit. Incentives are Bitcoin and pre-recorded messages targeting demographics. Bah. Look at him there. There's old Shlomo. Look at him there. He looks like Dr. Frankenstein. He's going, yeah, it's alive. It's alive. There, look at him, man. Just look at that slug.
So let me ask you this question. When did religion mix with politics and converge on what looks to be like some type of state-sponsored intelligence agency operation. It's like a giant psychological operation where I've never wanted to go to church and hear my pastor talk about Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, let alone Charlie Kirk, the Jews, Tucker. I want to listen to my pastor talk about God and the gospel. The last thing I want them to be doing is talking about religion. It's like they've converged in what only could feel like some type of intelligence operation. I can't put my finger on it, but whatever is going on with this Pastor Rob McCoy dude, it sounds fake. It sounds scripted. It sounds like there's an agenda and you're trying to push a specific narrative and brainwash and indoctrinate the people who you're supposed to be preaching to about faith.
Now let's look at what our own government's up to. Countering Russian influence on evangelicals, 24-25. ODNI and FBI's Active Measures Task Force paid 50-plus evangelical influencers $5,000 to $15,000 via NGOs for anti-Putin sermons countering Russians' traditional values propaganda, in other words, anti-LGBTQ content. The targets were Texas and Florida megachurches, with pastors like those in the Southern Baptist Convention amplifying U.S.-Ukraine support as a moral crusade. ODNI is, that's Tulsi Gabbard's deal. So she's in on this. 25. And then there's the FBI too. 15,000, man. Think of all the preachers who would just jump to get that. And see, it doesn't necessarily have to be mega churches. We're talking state actors. We're talking, a government with billions and billions in resources. How do you know they're not going down and paying some little country preacher or some guy with a church, off in some residential neighborhood that doesn't have more than 25 or 30 people going to it? How do you know? Hell, I would. I'd send money to every damn one of those preachers if I had the money to send, and boy, howdy, they do. Then there's Spamouflage and China Ops, the CIA and the NSA. They brief evangelical podcasters like at Liberty University on CCP tactics, paying $2,000 per episode for content exposing persecution claims as disinformation. This promotes U.S. human rights agendas reaching 2 million plus views. And then there's informal advisory networks. And then pastors like Paula White receive CIA briefings on faith-based threats, influencing sermons on issues like Israel aid or election integrity per 2025 leaks. Now, this Paula person, she's Trump's religious woman. And everybody talked about how crazy she was when he first put her in there. And I thought, that's kind of weird. But then we discover she's actually being given CIA intelligence briefings. She's a spook. And we'll talk some more about her. We're going to show some more about her.
You see, the Bible makes a distinction, Mr. President, between two groups of Jews. One is called the synagogue of Satan. There's two different kinds. There are those people, in the latter days, it's called the remnant of God's people, which will be Jewish people. And then there's the synagogue of Satan. And nearly all of your religious deceptions in the latter days, what the Bible speaks, latter days to be 1,000 years, what they call the synagogue of Satan. In other words, they are energized by a supernatural power called the devil. This is what the Bible teaches, whether you believe it or don't believe it. This is the biblical teaching, and this is what I believe. And I believe that they have a strange brilliance about them. They're smart, and they are energized, in my judgment, by a supernatural power.
Well, also they do something else. They're not smart.
And you see, of course, Hitler didn't. They had a stranglehold on Germany, on the banking of Germany, on everything in Germany, and the media. They had the whole thing, you see. But he went about it wrong. But this stranglehold has got to be broken, or this country is going to go down the drain.
You believe that?
Yes, sir.
I can't ever say it, but I believe it.
No, but if you get elected the second time, you might be able to do something.
Now let's look a little more on the historical aspect of the whole thing. Let's go back to the Cold War era, the 50s through the 70s. And none other than Billy Graham walks on stage. Now, some of you younger folks don't know who Billy Graham was. Man, this guy, he filled up stadiums, 80, 100,000 people. He went all over the world. Millions of people come to listen to this guy preach. And he was, I gotta hand it to him, he was the best preacher I've ever seen. And I'm going to play, if I can find it, a recording of him sitting around talking to Richard Nixon. He was a spoke. Billy Graham was a spoke. He used to get intelligence briefings and, do anti-communism, pro-Vietnam War support. He was walking hand in glove with the CIA. Then in the 70s, the church committee comes along and they decide they're going to investigate the CIA because finally people are starting to wake up at what a menace the CIA is. Oh, and they call it church committee because Frank Church ran it. I did a video on the church committee, and they discovered 21 clergy, paid pastors given salaries up to $11,000, which in 1975, that was pretty good, especially when you consider that's their side gig. They were making money as preachers, too. And they discovered 4 active ops. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, Frank Church, he dredged up all that stuff, and then he died of a mysterious turbo cancer, like so many of them do. Okay, then post 9/11, you got the prosperity gospel preachers. And I did a video on them not too long ago myself. And once again, counterterror and domestic security. And this woman White, we've just talked about her. Undercover agents, 1,200 tips, some cooperation. So in other words, they've got 1,200 prosperity gospel preachers, and they're out there working as undercover cutouts, assets for the intelligence community. Then you've got the ODNI, FBI, and CIA doing foreign counterintelligence. That's 24-25. 50-plus influencers. Southern Baptist Convention megachurches. And they're preaching anti-Russia and China narratives. $5,000 to $15,000 payments, 2 million plus views on U.S. policy. Now, okay, I personally think it's a good thing to rail against China. I don't know that I care about Russia that much. They wouldn't need to pay me $15,000 to bash China. But, I'd do it anyway if I got $15,000. But, folks, this is just, it stinks. And I did a little digging around on Kenneth Copeland, prosperity gospel, with his airplanes and his network of so-called missionaries all over the place. And that is just ideal. The guy, there's no evidence to back it up, but the guy is so perfectly positioned to be a cutout for the CIA. With those planes, he can fly people and material all over the world. He's got those missionaries, and the agency could mold people in as missionaries all over the world to keep an eye on things. The guy is just a perfect cutout, and that's why I think that he is, because it's too perfect. And then I saw a deal the other day that really kind of cinched it for me. This guy hired some private investigators, and they supposedly discovered that Kenneth Copeland was Epsteining other preachers, getting them in his big zillion-dollar mansion and Epsteining them with cameras and whatnot, and then to get control over them, leverage to make them do what the CIA wants them to do, and Copeland too, I'm sure. But folks, you need to wake up. I've recently written a book that attacks organized religion, and it looks like it might get published. And I'm telling you, folks, stop going to church. Or no, I take that back. Don't stop going to church, but find small congregations where you can get together with people you know and do good. These big churches they're rat's nests, snake pits, dung holes.
I think the Joel Osteens of the world have created this lukewarm, pablum baby food that they serve up to their congregations week in and week out.
This is your time to shine.
They have no muscle. They have no backbone. They don't understand the Bible well enough because their preacher never talks about it. And so what you have is weak Christians that are constantly being attacked by a totally dedicated force of wickedness. Our country is completely compromised because of weak Christians.
We won't act the same. We won't talk the same. But we will have had an encounter with God. And we will leave like David testified. It was good to be in the house of the Lord. For surely God was there.
And let's finish it up with Paula White here. She has an organization called the City of Destiny, worth $20 to $40 million. She's had 3 divorces, and she's Trump's personal pastor, and she led the White House Faith Office from 2019 to 2021, and she's in there now in the new administration doing the same thing. She is the most direct intelligence adjacency. She receives classified briefings while in the Trump administration. 2025 leaks show continued NSA and FBI contact monitoring. There she is, man. She's a spook. Why would anyone think this was controversial? Why would anyone doubt this for a second? Talking about stuff like this, it's kind of like that movie, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, when the guy realizes that these aliens are doing doppelgangers of everybody and killing them and then resuming their identities with doppelgangers. And he realizes it and he runs out and he tries to yell and tell everybody, but I mean, where's he going to go? Everybody just laughs at him. Ha ha ha. He's crazy. But anyway, think about it, folks. Next time you see a preacher talking, just listen to what he says. Maybe you might pick up on something.
Everybody says they must keep. Everybody says they must keep. Everybody says they must keep. Everybody says they must keep up. Well, that's a crooked preacher.